Hello and welcome to myfinanceteacher.org. In this video we're going to look at Bitcoin and Ethereum, and we're going to start with Bitcoin. I mentioned in one of my previous videos that when we saw this significant decline in Bitcoin price, finishing with the low on the 10th of May, somewhere at about $8,100, I said that I wasn't really convinced that that decline was the end of the regular 2-month cycles in Bitcoin. And I mentioned a few reasons for that, including that the RSI didn't drop deep enough and Bitcoin was still a little bit too high over its 50-day moving average. As the time moves on and as the ongoing 2-month cycle in Bitcoin stretches up to 80 days at the moment, I'm getting a little bit wary of continuing to count the cycle all the way since the 13th of March, as that gives us a relatively stretched cycle. And the longest we've had so far is around 97 days in autumn of 2018. So 80-day cycle so far is not impossible, but as the time moves on, I wonder if our cycle has actually finished on the 10th of May. For now, though, I think there is still a good chance we will see a more clear end to the ongoing 2-month cycle in Bitcoin. Even though the price might not actually give us a lower low compared to what we saw on the 10th of May, we're at least likely to see the price at or below 50-day moving average. And that has been the norm for these cycle lows for a few years already. And a drop to or below the 50-day moving average actually also agrees with some technical picture on the chart. And what we see on the Bitcoin chart is this somewhat of a symmetrical triangle. And a couple of days ago, the price was rejected by the upper range of that triangle. So the correct play on Bitcoin would be to wait and see what happens to the price. If over the next couple of days, Bitcoin breaks above this upper range of this symmetrical triangle, in that case, what I will do is I will enter in a long position with a stop loss somewhere below this upper boundary of the symmetrical triangle, but not too far below it. In that case, if we finally do see a break with a measured move of possibly $2,000 higher, we'll have a chance to catch that move as the breakout occurs, and at the same time we'll manage to keep our losses to the minimum using a stop loss. But the breakout is not occurring at the moment, so the correct strategy is still to wait and see if, on the other hand, Bitcoin does come down to the lower range of this symmetrical triangle, and whether the bounce up comes from this support of this boundary or anywhere below that. Once we do see a bounce up, that would be the time for a correct strategy to enter with a stop loss at a recent low. And that is also possibly when our 2-month cycle in Bitcoin will finally finish, giving us a new cycle and a new rally into the early stages of that cycle. So to summarize on Bitcoin, waiting for either a break up out of this triangle, in which case I'm going to enter long positions with a stop loss just below the breakout, or waiting for a decline and a turnaround for another chance of a long position with a stop loss at recent lows. Whichever happens over the next few hours or few days, I will make sure to let you know immediately at the time of my personal trades if you are a member at myfinanceteacher.org. Next, let's have a look at Ethereum. As I mentioned in the previous videos, unlike Bitcoin, Ethereum in its decline into early parts of May did actually drop closer to the 50-day moving average and the lower range of the Bollinger Bands. The RSI, the 14-day RSI, also came at least under 50, whereas for Bitcoin, RSI didn't drop below 50. And with usually relatively shorter cycles for Ethereum, which generally last for 51 days rather than 2 months, at least over the last few years. With all of that in mind, I mentioned in one of my previous videos that we had actually seen the cycle low for Ethereum on the 11th of May. So far so good. Since the 11th of May, the price has topped at 39% gains and it's currently at 33% gains. And although the price has already poked a few times through the upper range of the Bollinger Bands, nevertheless, with the cycle only 21 days old so far, and usually with these cycles lasting for 51 days or so, I think there is still a good chance for Ethereum to continue upwards for another couple of weeks. And what we see on the chart over the last week or so is a pattern that looks a lot like a bull flag. Let's zoom into the 4-hour chart. we see the pole of this bull flag between the 26th and 30th of May. And for a couple of days, Ethereum has been forming this flag itself. A few hours ago, we saw a fake breakout, which since then came back down into the flag. So although over the next couple of weeks, I think we will see Ethereum continue its rally, but at the moment, again, the strategy is to wait. As the recent breakout was a fake one, we again have to wait for one of the two possible outcomes in the future. If this decline over the last few hours turns around and we see a price above the recent high, that would be above 242. If this recent high from a few hours ago is broken when the price of Ethereum turns around and starts a new rally after this bull flag, then that would be my time to enter into long positions in Ethereum with a stop loss at possibly around 239. That stop loss would be formed by the highs of these recent candles over the last few hours. So that would be my strategy if the drop in Ethereum turns around over the next few hours and we see a price higher than 242. And on the other hand, if this drop continues over the next few hours or a day or so, again, the correct strategy would be just to wait for a turnaround. And once I see this turnaround, that would be the time to enter into long positions with appropriate stop loss. And of course, again, whichever happens on the Ethereum chart over the next few hours, I will make sure to let you know of my personal trades if you are a member at myfinancesteacher.org. If you are not a member, consider joining us. We discuss a range of assets nearly every day, and that range of assets includes precious metals, general stock market, energy, and cryptocurrencies. In addition to these analyses and discussions, I also have a business partner who writes very interesting newsletters on his experience of investing over a few decades. If you scroll down to categories and click on newsletters, you will see those in reverse chronological order. Otherwise, the homepage lists all our posts in the reverse chronological order. Once you join, I'll send you a confirmation email for new post alerts so that you don't have to monitor the website for new information all the time. For now, I wish you a nice day and good luck in your trades.